everyone, and thank you all for joining today. For those that don't know, my name is Laura Thompson and I am one of the representatives from Calisim. Thank you for completing the questions at the beginning as well. Dr. Molina will be going through the results a bit later on. So just as a bit of background, you're all on mute for now. After the presentation, we'll be having a 15-minute Q&A session. So if you do have any questions, please wait until the end. Or if you have one that you'd like to make during the presentation, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, which you will be able to click and write your question in. If you do see a question in the Q&A section that you'd also like the answer to, then please give it a thumbs up, because then it will be brought to the top and we can answer it for you. So today we have Dr. Beatriz Molina to present our next webinar in the series called Optimize Results, Minimize Downtime. Dr. Molina practices full-time in her 2 award-winning clinics while teaching beginner and advanced techniques in dermal fillers. She's been involved in countless training courses for cosmetic doctors, surgeons, dermatologists, and healthcare professionals on the behalf of numerous pharmaceutical and aesthetic companies across Europe, as well as conducting several clinical trials. She is the founder of the International Association for Prevention of Complications in Aesthetic Medicine, and also a member of the British Association of Cosmetic Doctors. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Molina.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this webinar. Not sure if Nick got those stacks ready from the questions yet. If no, he can just shout to me in a minute when you got them. Yeah, perfect. So from our participants today, which is just over 200, going through the questions, we got only 25%, which obviously they know a little bit about stem cells topical products. 39%, they know some basic information. 18%, they are familiar, but they have no clinical experience with it. And at 21%, which is familiar with the stem cell topical products, and they have obviously used this. So it's probably about nearly a quarter of our audience today, which I'm very glad to hear. Regarding Calisim, the professional Calisim, about 22% of people are using it in their clinics, and 21% have had some samples. So if you had the samples, why haven't you tried them yet? And 57% are still not aware, obviously, of this range, which is good for us, because that's what we're here for, to try to get you convinced to use it. And regarding the final questions, do you carry out any of the treatments below in your clinic? So majority of people obviously are doing microneedling, and a quite big percentage are also doing plasma and sublative radiofrequency. So that's fantastic. And obviously just remember then obviously this type of treatments today is not just to use with treatments, you can also use it as an aftercare for your patients. So let's move into our presentation today. So today we are going to be looking through the Calisim professional range, a little bit about the umbilical cord technology, also some of the applications in wound healing, and of course, what you probably are looking for is to see what you can achieve aesthetically with this range. So looking at the portfolio, we got mainly these 3 products. So the professional serum, which it comes in a pack of 5 small bottles, each one individually wrapped. It comes with a cap, a screw cap, and a little pipette, which then you can, as I say, open individually for each patient to use it after the treatment. And then normally what we tend to do is obviously we use some of the drops and then hand them the rest of the serum to continue at home twice a day for several days. And then we'll go into a bit more of the protocols later. Then you have got 2 products for home care, the multi-action cream. So for people with more significant signs of aging is the ideal product to get them started. And if you go a little bit of a younger, maybe patients where they just want a bit of obviously improvement on a skin texture and a skin quality and more hydration, then you can use the restorative hydration cream. looking at the post-procedure applications. So what treatments can we do in clinic, and then of course use calcing after? We got a range in there. Obviously, usually we do sublative radiofrequency, some forms of lasers and IPLs. We don't do CO2, but of course for the ones of you that got CO2 lasers, that's a great treatment afterwards. Chemical peelings, particularly the more invasive chemical peelings, we're talking about TCAs or even phenol peelings, macroneedling, macrodermabrasion, and anything which actually is invasive. Like for example, it's not on the list, but plasma surgical, for the ones of you that use it, is a great treatment. And at the moment, it's probably the product which for us is one of the star key to get better results after the procedure. And then of course, as we said earlier, you can give them this rest of the serum, or if you feel they're going to need more serum, a new bottle for them to continue using it afterwards, so it reduces the downtime. But of course, then you can start them on one of the other creams, or both, if they can. You could do a morning and an evening, or just use one of them twice a day. And actually that will mean then they get even a better result from whatever treatments you are performing. Let's have a look first at then the umbilical cord lining stem cells. What are obviously stem cells? We know they are precursor cells, and these cells are going to differentiate themselves into another linear cells. And normally they're going to go into three of the lineage. So you got the hematopoietic stem cells, which are the blood cells precursors, and of course the epithelial stem cells and the mesenchymal stem cells. I think they're passing very slowly, these slides, so I'm sorry. So what is important about stem cell technology? Firstly, we need to look at the concentration of the stem cells. To be able to be absorbed in the skin, the minimum concentration of a stem cell has to be 30%. So be aware of other products out there in the market, which obviously they don't really have the right concentration because it's not going to work. And of course, is what quality of stem cells we have got within the product. And we do know that infant stem cells on core lining are obviously the most vigorous and the more reliable stem cells for production of proteins. So they are young, they are very strong, and they're also easy to work in the lab. So looking at here, the umbilical core cell stem cells amniotic membrane, they are obviously smooth and they are producing mucin. So that means they're going to have a resistance to contamination. They are avascular, and as I said earlier, they're very easy to work with in the lab. And from these stem cells, what we're trying to get is two of the strengths, the epithelial stem cells and the mesenchymal stem cells. So we know, of course, within our skin, we do have epidermis, which is what we call the epithelial stem cells, and the dermis, what we call the mesenchymal stem cells. So what it means is the skin is going to be very responsive to the signals of the stem cells. Normally, as we said earlier, the epithelial stem cells will differentiate into the surface structures, and the mesenchymal stem cells will generate solid organs and obviously fibroblasts. So, but what types of stem cells technology? So where is the sources for these stem cells? We've seen in the past them coming from placenta, from bone marrow, from skin, from adipose tissue, and Werther's jelly. But obviously the core lining is being maybe less used in the past, but we know that probably the best ones, because as we can see on that chart, they probably cover, I can't pass the slides from here, Nick, today. Very slowly. So the umbilical lining stem cells, so we can see here, has got 6 billion of epithelial and 6 billion of mesenchymal cells. So that's really huge if we compare it, as we can see on the other side of the screen, to bone marrow, which obviously there will be firstly adult stem cells, and we only got about 2 million and only of mesenchymal stem cells. for average aspiration. So if you compare that to obviously the 6 billion of both in the umbilical cord lining, it makes sense why we use this. Of course, adipose stem cells, again, they will be adult stem cells, so they're older, so they're less vigorous, and they are going to be even less than in the bone marrow. Of course, with placenta, there is some issues with possibly contamination. And of course, Wharton jelly, it was going to be more variable because it depending on the quality of the WCO stain from the cord. So looking at the percentage of the, as we said earlier, we need to have a minimum percentage of stem cells concentration to be able to be absorbed by the skin and to be effective. So we can definitely say that the Calysin range got the highest percentage in the market. So if we look at the professional serum, which for me is the star of the group, is 80% stem cell the proteins. When the multi-action is a 50%, and the restorative hydration cream has got a 40% of these. So this is extremely important. Where is the source for the lining of the Calysin core lining source? So we found, and it's the red New Zealand deer. Well, I say we, it wasn't definitely me, I wish. But the red New Zealand deer is probably the only species that actually does not transmit disease to us humans. So it's actually the source for this umbilical cord lining. It's a free, obviously they're free, they're not in endangered species, they're not being treated badly, they are actually just living there happily. And obviously when the babies are born, the umbilical cord is a medical waste. So we do not need it anymore. So actually this is what is used in the silver fern farms to obviously harvest these stem cells. And here we can see from the University of Colorado, a great video of actually the umbilical cord cells themselves. Look how active they are, how much movement there is there. And these are the cells we are looking, as I said, to use to harvest. This is an incredible image by Robert Chan. So how do we get then from the stem cells to this conditioned media to produce our Calysin? And what happens is the core lining stem cells, they are producing very potent mix of proteins and growth factors and cytokines. All of this is collected in this conditioned media. And what it happens, this media is making the cells to behave in this very youthful manner and is sending signals to these skin cells. And what it does is increase glycoprotein production, for example, hyaluronic acid, makes them work in a specific direction. So makes them work in this, increasing their mobility to get like the wound healing, so the repair. And at the same time, it's activating these cells to actually, what we call it, an increase of their turnover. So it's actually making them to divide more, to work harder, and to increase the turnover. So just remember that the message is the medium. So let's look now at these in vitro studies. In this first one here, there is an evidence of the increase of epidermal proliferation. So what they did is they used H-skins of both keratinocytes and fibroblasts, and they put them in this medium. So the red one will be the ones that are being exposed to the conditioned media, and the gray ones are obviously the ones that we are having, so it's our control. And after 6 days, we already see a huge increase of the proliferation and cells turnover. So what we can see is the skin responds very rapidly to wound healing. It's fine, Nick, let's go if you want, it's fine, to the next one, where actually it's perfect because it's the effects of the Calysin again in vitro for acceleration on repair. So if you remember this little test you can do with this scrape test, we got the control, and then we got the callousing one. And if you do the little scrape wound, we can see that the one is being exposed to the condition media, is proliferated and migrated closer and closes the wound very quickly within 40 hours. I mean, that is incredible. And you can actually see why when we use this treatment post invasive procedures in clinic, and there being, obviously we've seen some images later, split studies, that actually even very quickly after just hours, you already see a huge improvement. And we got another in vitro study coming after, in which we can see the evidence of the dermal and epidermal fullness. So this is using a 3-dimensional in vitro skin model, which obviously replicates more or less the skin, and is exposed to the callousing, and we can see the proliferation is more than 600%. And that's your slide on the right. So we saw earlier how the skin obviously get sort of activated, and the different cells and the work, and how it goes through the skin at both levels, epidermis and dermis. So what happened now when we compare callousing to the human foreskin fibroblasts condition media? Because that's what a lot of is being used a lot in the past. And we can see here on day 0, again, doing the pipette tip scratch test, we're going to see from day 0, that's the 2 wounds, they're pretty much identical, to our next slide, which actually shows day 5. And actually, the callousing one is actually totally healed when the fibroblasts, the human foreskin fibroblast is much better, but obviously there is a significant improvement in the callousing over the human foreskin fibroblast. So to the fun bit, clinic. What do we do in clinic with obviously the serum? And the first slide after now will show us our key product. And I honestly will say that the first time I tried it, I was totally non-convinced and it will work so quickly. I was thinking that it's going to take several weeks, which it makes sense. And I will show you later one of our photos, because it was the very first patient we treated with this serum. So what it makes a difference for us, and that's what we're using it now for every single protocol in our clinic, is because it decreases the downtime. There is a significant reduction on redness and swelling, and of course, discomfort of the patient, particularly on the most aggressive treatments. It definitely helps and accelerates the healing of the skin, which means, again, is reducing that downtime. Our patients are they're very busy and they don't like very harsh procedures because they want to go back to normal life. So this is our great friend for that. And of course, we've been noticing that we get even better results than using one procedure on its own. As you all know, in aesthetics, this combination techniques seems to be the best, because nothing works 100% for everything. So let's look at one of the first images. Sorry, well, we've gone through, yeah, because we just said what we used it before already. So looking at the before and after here, and as I said, this is from one of my colleagues because we don't do CO2 laser. But if you look at the picture on your left of the screen, where you got the split face, where the callousing is being applied to the left side of her face and not to the other side, you can see the reduction in particularly the swelling is what is more striking. I mean, her right eye is hardly open, when in the other one, you can see she looks nearly normal. So that reduction of swelling is going to reduce the discomfort, because you know how painful it is when you feel so swollen up and you can hardly open your eyes, but also, as I said, the recovery. But then looking at the picture on the other side, and it's not so good maybe on the computer, but when you can see then on high definition, there's definitely an improvement on the skin quality above the other side with the same procedure. So still is a CO2 laser, which is a great treatment, but you get even better results, and of course a lot less downtime by using the callousing. And again, this is another image, and just a split face again, and this is day 4. The difference is huge. I mean, this lady now with probably a little bit of mineral makeup could go out. The swelling is gone. It just got some redness because, of course, it's a very aggressive therapy. But, you know, this lady is 77, so normally they don't heal as quickly. So the fact that we can help them on this, I think is a great, again, great result. And this lady is one of my patients now. She wasn't before. She decided to have her hands with IPL treatment for photo rejuvenation. She went to a beauty salon and they burned her hands. So she has severe burns, which left her after with obviously pigmentation. So it was inflammatory pigmentation. And you can see, hopefully from your screen, depending on if you got a phone or a big computer, you can see the brown marks where obviously the pigmentation was left. And she just came to us, and this is about 6 to 7 months post-treatment, and said, can you do anything about this? And at the time, I thought, okay, well, let's try the serum, because I wasn't really sure what else to do to heal the skin. So if we then click now, we can see the after. And you can see that after, this is when she came in, so she had 1 session, so she came in for a 2nd session, and already there was a huge significant improvement on the hands. I mean, she was already delighted. So we did only 3 treatments at the end. She was very happy, full resolution. Yeah, patient was obviously very, very happy. And this is the patient I was mentioning earlier, because everyone who doesn't know me will think, oh, maybe this been being Photoshopped. I promise, this is immediately after 1 treatment. She was our very, very first model, which she agreed to be used for the Calacin Professional Serum on his own, and we wanted to know what it could do. So we used just plasma shower, and then we apply the serum transdermally. We will never get this with plasma shower. We don't get these results. I mean, normally we only use plasma shower when we want to penetrate some form of non-cross-link serum much deeper into the skin, but pretty much that's it. But of course, with the Calacin, I mean, they did use 2.5 mils of professional serum. We could just see a diminishment on even the forehead wrinkles, which were quite deep, because this lady doesn't want toxin, and even nasolabial folds. The cheeks look plumper, the eye lines are softer. I mean, it is incredible. And I said, I honestly promise, was just 2.5 mils of this serum. She's now, this lady doesn't want injectables, she doesn't like needles. So she comes now every 6 weeks and have one of these treatments with us. And now she's obviously purchased as well the cream, and she's using it from home. But at the time, this was just as a one-off treatment. So I think it's fantastic. This is another one of our treatments. And in this one, our patients, we use sublative radiofrequency for the periocular area only. And then we just gave her the Calacin serum to take and use at home. And again, we can see, because we do the sublative radiofrequency in between 4 to 6 weeks apart. So this is after, this is when she came for her 3rd treatment. So she had 2 treatments. So this is just 2 months, but only using the sublative radiofrequency periocular, but then she took the serum to use for a few days. It's normally until they run out of it. So it's just for about a week after, and they use it twice a day after in a clean skin. So they cleanse, use the serum morning and night, and that's it. And this is the first image. I think if we go to the next one, it's a little bit more clear. But if we see the plasma BT, so plasma BT is, for the ones of you that know, it's like a surgical plasma for an upper blepharoplasty. And this is after 1 treatment. And in the next photo, we can see now, this is after just 2 treatments, so 3 months, because we do, again, 6 weeks between the 2 treatments. So 6 weeks later, wonderful result. You can see even the skin quality around the eye area is improved. So just as I said, we only do it on the part of the top part of the soft eyelid, and this is just producing a great skin tightening. And of course, which I didn't mention, is the downtime. Because if you all, for the ones of you that do surgical plasma, you know that for 3 days, people can hardly even open their eyes sometimes because of the swelling. So what we're finding now, that it's very rare to get that much of the severe swelling. So maybe for 24 hours, but usually with an antihistamine and the calcium serum, we're finding that they are okay and they continue normal life. And then you just see the little dots, crusty dots, but actually with a little bit of mineral makeup, is actually very, very manageable, and you can actually do a pretty much normal life. Another one of our patients for periocular sublated radiofrequency. It's a very, very popular treatment in our clinic at the moment, and we just do 3 sessions. So we do one treatment every 4 to 6 weeks apart. And as I said, we only apply the calcium professional serum afterwards, and we just give them the serum to take home. And I mean, this is just a very, very good result. Very, very good. I mean, you can see, I mean, she had the whole brow lift. Again, the softening of the lines, and even the eye bags look less deep and less, you know, because you're getting a bit of a plumping of the skin. And the next image you were going to put, Nick, which is obviously one of our patients, again, much older. That's, again, when she came for her 3rd treatment. I will say that we will never expect to get these type of results. Before we sublated, we always did a course of 6 treatments, 5 to 6, because we didn't think that it was enough really to create this type of results. Now we're doing a pack with just 3 treatments and the calcium. And to be honest, I would say that these are candidates to carry on using the skincare. Some of these patients don't have huge amount of money, which is why they're only doing the periocular area, but it's not an expensive procedure at all, and actually you get great dramatic results. Another one of our patients, no fillers, no toxin. This is just, again, sublated radiofrequency and calcium. Again, 3 treatments, using then the calcium serum then at home for maintenance. And I mean, I would say it is extremely dramatic. It looks like we've done fillers, and we haven't. The dark circles have improved, everything. The skin is much more plump. Let's say it's mainly the periocular area where people get the brow lift. Even the skin of the eye area looks like she has a toxin, but she hasn't. So yeah, very, very dramatic results. Another one, and this is actually with Dermapen, which I know is very, very popular with a lot of our audience today. And we normally do a course of 6 Dermapens. As I said, now we're finding maybe 4 to 5 is enough with the use of calcium. And in the next slide, we can see a close up, because you can see actually the dramatic results on open pores and skin quality. Because it's just not just only people, when, you know, we choose different treatments depending on what you want to achieve. When you want just greater skin quality, reduction in open pores, for open pores, we only got really 2 treatments, Dermapen and HIFU. HIFU is not very manageable when you have to do a full face. So actually Dermapen is a lot better for that. And then you get that sort of softness of the skin and dramatic skin plumping and superficial. So it's simple to do, it's not expensive, it's quite affordable. If we are having deeper wrinkles and you need more of a lifting, like on the previous 4 images, of course, then we use sublated radiofrequency, but you do have a little bit more downtime than with Dermapen. But anyway, I think we all agree that that is a very, very good result for just Dermapen and calcium. And then going into after care home, of course. So when patients sometimes don't even have the budget, they don't want downtime, they just may want just to do a very good skin regime. Why not to simply give them maybe something like a multi-action cream? So if you got an aged skin and they feel they want a bit of lifting and improvement, it's not magic, it's science. And I think if you explain how it works and how the stem cell technology can actually activate in the skin, then I believe patients, when they know you, they trust you, they will get it. And if you see then this image, this is from one of our colleagues, where we can see that incredible improvement on appearance, not just of the eyebrow and sort of the eyelid, but also the jawline and even on the cheek and cheekbone area. It looks like she has had some sort of lifting treatment. And I believe, if you know, for, as I say, anyone with good photography, you can prove to your patients the results. So let's have a look at the next ones. That's a bit of a younger patient, but again, look at the condition of the skin, the improvement on nasolabial folds, etc. is very, very good. And on that one again, so that's the 3/4 profile, because in here you can appreciate better even the improvement on the nasolabial folds and actually on the eyelid, you know, the eyelid itself. So you can go close, obviously do not get it into the eye, but you can get obviously close to around the periocular area. And one more image of another colleague there, where we can see as well, you know, it looks like she has had cheek fillers. So you get a bit more plumping on the skin. Again, very, very good results. And this is one of our patients. So this obviously, we do most of our follow-ups either 2 weeks because we do toxin, or 4 to 6 weeks because most of our treatments are either 4 or 6 weeks apart. So we tend to do 6 weeks follow-up. I know she's smiling a little bit, but she was so pleased. But you can really see an improvement, a dramatic improvement in skin quality. Most of our patients will have a plasma shower with a Callicin serum as a boost, and then we'll send them home with the cream, and then we just say, see how we're getting on, and then decide if we need after 6 weeks anything else. Some of these patients may want later to move obviously into having fillers or toxin, etc. Some patients want to stay with just machines and they don't want injectables, so they are the ones that are probably more faithful to the skincare. And the restorative hydration. So if you need a little bit more hydration in the skin, because just to remind you, with the other cream, obviously you do not have any hydration in this serum, so it's just purely the cream, so you need to use maybe some moisturizer. But if someone thinks, oh, I just want to do one step, the restorative hydration cream is perfect. So it will help, as we said earlier, skin texture and shadows, fine wrinkles. And because of the hydration, you feel like your skin is more plump, it's going to feel more radiant, and it's going to have a better glow. And again, let's have a look at some of the images. This is, again, one of the studies where it was done. I think it was about 500 of them, and then follow up, and they were only having, again, just the cream. And we can see definitely that improvement. We said like the plumpiness of the skin, they're more radiant, more glow. It looks again like they have had some cheek fillers. So it's a very, very good result. And all of these will be about 6 weeks again follow-up. That's in the 3/4. We can see even the definition of the jawline, which actually is just like, because obviously when you're getting in a skin more plump and more sort of firm, you are going to have a directional lifting, which if follows is normal. It's just the way, like for the ones of you that like to use, say, Profilo, that would be a great combination. So also for injectables, I know we've not been talking on injectables, but if you are using it and then you give them a stem cell technology, you're not only going to improve your treatment outcome, obviously you're going to get a better skin quality and a better reduction of the fine lines, which you cannot really create with fillers. Your fillers, majority of the time, are going just to give you definition and contour. So let's have a look at the next image. And again, this is an Asian lady, and we know how much thicker their skin is. It's actually sometimes for some things a little bit harder to treat. But again, with just the cream here, we can see a huge improvement. Again, nasolabial folds, jowls, and of course, in general, always looking at the skin tone and the skin texture to have a more plumpy, juicy feel on the skin. And this is one of our younger patients who, even if she had toxin, she still thinks she's got wrinkles under the eye, and she looks exhausted. And we thought, you know, I don't know what else to do. You don't need injectables, you're too young. So let's try this cream. And yeah, I mean, I was very, very impressed. Then after 6 weeks of using of this hydration cream, her fine lines under eyes are so much better, so much better. And one of our patients, she wanted more fillers. She's obsessed. She's one of these girls who I think maybe a little bit of body dysmorphia, where she doesn't see any changes. And I just thought, you're going to look strange if you have fillers with your face. So let's try to improve the quality. I mean, she had really bad skin quality, which I don't know if you can appreciate that well in there, but this really has transformed her skin and she just looks so much better. Really good. Very impressed. So while we're getting a minute to the questions, if you don't mind a second, Nick, I need to grab my charger. I don't know what's happened. 1 second.
Yeah, of course. So what we'll do is we'll run through some of the questions when Dr. Molina gets back in the Q&A, and then we will go live to the floor. So if anyone does have a question that they want to ask directly, then there should be a raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. So you can do that and we'll be able to, you'll get a notification to unmute your microphone and then you can ask the question.
I went into a panic mode when I saw the 5% only, and I went, what? What's happened? It was fully charged. I don't know. It's one of those things. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a question here that says, for the patient that you treated with PIH on the hands, what treatment was done along with the calcium serum, and how often was the serum used before you saw an improvement?
So we only use plasma shower for the transdermal delivery because we know obviously calcium in itself will penetrate the skin. We saw that on the slides earlier. We could even go back to one of the slides if you want to, where it shows that because of the concentration, which is 80%, it will actually penetrate epidermis and dermis and activate the cells there. But because it was, you know, quite a severe pigmentation, we thought, okay, but let's do, because plasma technology has got a little bit of a whitening effect anyway. So we thought, let's combine the two. So we did the plasma shower, 5 minutes per hand, and then we apply 1 ml of serum per hand. And then she took some serum with her at home, and then she just have to apply the serum twice a day. And then she came back for, usually we do 2 weeks for things like this. So 2 to 3 weeks for another treatment. And then you repeat every 2 to 3 weeks. You can leave it for a month, but I think we find in 2 weeks is probably better, only because we're treating obviously post-inflammatory pigmentation. So you need to be a little bit more on it. But that's not even using any of the creams at home. So obviously, before we had calcium, I would have probably used some pigmentation, to reduce pigmentation creams and things like that. But the problem you had, and later when they go in the sun, you get a flare up. So really, obviously, we did suggest to use an SPF daily, of course. Yeah. Okay.
So have you observed if calcium serum improves dark circles?
Yes, because if you think that when you are improving the skin quality and you are accelerating cells for repair, what you're also doing is plumping the skin, as we saw on those images, because you're getting more hydration. So you're getting, like particularly with the hydrating cream at home. But if you only use the professional serum, what you're doing is repairing of cells, so you're getting thickness, so improvement of more collagen, because you get fibroblast activity. So what you're getting is a much firmer, thicker skin. And as we know, depending, of course, on the type of dark circles. So if it's the dark circles caused because the skin is thin, and when the light shows through, what you see is pretty much your bone, and that's just something you can't do anything about it for very magical creams you use. What we're doing here is, of course, improving the skin texture, so it's thicker, and then you get a better reflection of the light. If it's obviously the type of dark circles you see on some Indian skin, which is obviously the hereditary and is to do with the deposit of hemoglobin in the area, then no. you're not going to get on that type of pigmentation and improvement. You have to do another type of treatments with it, but then you can do laser or whatever, and then combine it with your, obviously, after callousing to improve the skin quality.
Okay, amazing. So do you use callousing with HIFU?
Yes, and that's what I mentioned very fast only earlier, because HIFU is quite an uncomfortable treatment. So majority of our patients tolerate it. We do a lower face or lower face with upper neck is as much as they can go. A full face is very rarely done in one go because people really don't like it. Now, what we do a lot with that is actually to give them later the cream to use at home, because it's only going to help the results and the outcome of the HIFU. Now, if you're using HIFU S7, so that's the superficial heads where they treat just the fine wrinkles, skin texture, and as I said earlier, it's the only one with the macroneedling and dermapen you can use for open pores. So if you're using it just for skin quality and you're only doing S7, then yes, then you do the professional one straight after to minimize downtime, because you get swelling with HIFU and you get, obviously, it's quite uncomfortable. And obviously you're going to, with that, improve the outcome of the HIFU. But normally we tend to use, as I said earlier, because of cost, most people will go for dermapen or macroneedling or something like that because it's a lot cheaper and you get still very good skin quality and very good results, and it's not so painful than HIFU. So mostly HIFU in our clinics are for lifting. So it's for non-surgical facelift for people that don't want to see injectables.
Okay. So can you use the serum as a medium for microneedling? So while you're actually doing the procedure, or do you have to apply it after a microneedling procedure?
Dermapen, you need some very good gliding. So you just use like a normal hydrating serum, which allows the needle to hydrate. You will waste a lot of product. It's not cheap, eh? Callousing to us, every little vial is going to cost a significant amount of money, so will make your treatment go up a lot. And to be honest, you don't need to. So you can just use your normal serums they recommend, depending if you're using dermapen or just macroneedling for hydration. It could be a normal non-cross-linked hyaluronic acid, which is a lot cheaper. And then afterwards, when you finish your procedure, then you put your callousing serum because it will penetrate very well. And the maximum you need is 2.5 ml, and every little vial is 5, which means then you can give them the other 2.5 mils to take home and then to use twice a day for the next 3 or 4 days when the worst downtime is normally happening. And then, as I said earlier, the day after, we did my forehead and we thought, let's try half a split with a callousing and no callousing to see. And the redness was nearly gone the day after. It was nearly not showing that I had callousing. And the other side, where they didn't have the callousing, it was raw red the day after. And I couldn't cover it with the normal makeup.
Mm. Okay, so we're actually going to go live to the floor. So if anyone does have a question they want to ask directly, then if you just click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, then you should be prompted to unmute your microphone.
Hello.
Hi, Mary.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you? Where are you phoning from?
Buenas noches, Australia.
From Australia. Wow, nice to hear from you.
We are Argentinian, so we speak. Okay, look, I was using the callousing after the dermapen or after a full field peeling, and I have one experience. One of the lady can tolerate because they stinks a lot. So, do you have any tip?
That was your professional serum, you mean? I have to say, we have had now callousing for at least 3 years in our clinic, and we never seen a stinging. And we do, as I said, straight plus all the most aggressive procedures after. So was it anything else you used? What procedure was it?
Was a full field laser peeling. And another one was dermapen, yes, a peeling.
A peeling. And what peeling was it?
Full field.
Full face, but yeah, which one? Phenol, TCA, glycolic?
No, it was a laser peeling. We used a Photona.
Okay, so
So
Not
my experience
sure.
was they stings a lot, like a vitamin C, the same. Do you have any? I was using the Simmer, and I had a good result, but the patient was very concerned. So, oh, she was really.
I mean, as I said, we have used it for 3 years and we do it daily in our clinic several times a day. It's not just once a day, it's just with different procedures all the time. We have never seen stinging after the serum application. And even my staff will use it after dermapen and things themselves. So I haven't seen it. And I'm not sure if this lady will have reacted to
Okay.
the condition media on the serum hasn't got anything to make it aggressive.
Okay, I will try
I will
again.
double check with Nick later. Will Nick later and see if he's been any other reports from somewhere else, and we'll come back to you about that. But as I said, I have personally not seen anything like that. No.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Another question for rosacea. What do you think?
Yes, rosacea, as you know, is obviously a very difficult condition to treat, and the skin is, the barrier on the epidermis and dermis is obviously affected, and you need to repair it. A lot of people now, they are doing a lot of studies that actually by using chemical peelings, because you're actually taking some of the layers and stimulating, you're doing some sort of repair. So there is a lot of things now with the skin care.
I think we've lost Dr. Molina.
Yeah.
And maybe some peelings. And after that, when the skin is stable, then yes, I will start them on the callousing, because then once it will then improve the skin quality, so it doesn't go back to ever get the rosacea. But as we know, it's not curable, and it's difficult to know sometimes why it flare up. But definitely when it's an active pustules, don't use it, because callousing is too powerful. It will stimulate things, and it could, and as I said, I don't have as much experience on that, but it could potentially make it worse, which is the same with acne. However, I had a patient who had eczema, and she came in with severe eczema on her, on the front of her arms, like raw, and she was under the specialist in the hospital, and she was obviously on the steroids, etc. Nothing was helping, and I have to say, we did 10 minutes of plasma shower followed to callousing serum, and I got some images I could show you and send to you with the day after. Is totally calmed down. So we know that it heals the skin, but as I said, rosacea and so beware.
Okay, okay. Thank you for everything.
Thank you very much, Maurice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got Aziz here. I think if you just unmute your microphone, there we go.
Hello, thanks so much for the interesting lecture. I just wanted to ask, it's very interesting about the serum that you're using. Is how can I get it? Is it available in the market, and is there any side effect to it?
Yes, it is available, and I'm sure for that one, it will be that Laura or Nick will be better to answer that question, but they can, I'm sure, contact you in a minute and see which country are you based?
UK.
Oh, UK simple.
Yes.
UK, you can do it directly with them, or I get mine as well through Church Pharmacy.
Oh, Church Pharmacy. Okay, great. Thank you. And is there any side effect?
Nick can tell you any other places, if it's any other places to get it from.
Yeah, no, I've dealt with Church Pharmacy, so I should be fine. And what about any side effects, please? And can pregnant women use it? Breastfeeding women?
It's like everything. When people are pregnant and breastfeeding, there's always a panic about everything, how to use. I mean, to be honest, it's not a drag. So of course you could, because it's just a cream, isn't it? So you could put them on a face cream, and it's just stem cells. So it's not really any reason why not, but it's no studies because when pregnant women, and we never do studies. But regarding side effects, as I said earlier, I've never seen any side effects to do with these creams or the professional serum. And we honestly use a lot, and it's been 3 years. So personally, no idea. I don't, I just say that we'll share with Nick later worldwide as being any other things, but I'm not aware of any.
And I'm sorry to ask this. I'm not sure if I missed it in the lecture. What is it made of from? How do you, what's the content of this cream?
Okay, so you get the New Zealand red deer, and then the umbilical cord after the birth, which obviously is the medical waste, that gets put into a conditioned media. And then from that conditioned media, you create a number of proteins and cytokines, etc. And you extract then all the protein from the deer. So it's all been cleaned then. And that conditioned media is what they use to do the creams and the serums and the professional serum.
Okay, I see. So it's probably, very similar to makeup products made of, animal bloods and so on. So it should be safe, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, great.
But the reason, obviously, they still use, because for very filtration things you do and for all the proteins you extract, there is always a concern on what about if there is a little or something left, isn't it? So I suppose, but with the New Zealand red deer, we know that it cannot transmit any disease to humans. So of course, that is why we feel much more happier than if it was a pig or if it was a cow or something like that. It's a different issue, isn't it? Because you could have some disease transmitted.
Thank you so much for your interesting lecture, and it's lovely to listen to it. Thank you so much.
Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions that we haven't answered, what we'll do is we'll compile them all together and email them to you. So thank you so much, Dr. Molina, for your presentation today. It was fantastic, and hopefully you will find it really interesting. Our next webinar is going to be on the 28th of May with Dr. Lisa Learn, who's based in the US. So there'll be a link to register in our follow-up emails. We'd love for you all to join that if you are available. There'll be a short feedback form at the end. We always really like to hear what you think and any improvements and everything. But thank you all so much for joining. And yes, thank you, Beatriz.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.